Have you spoken with the president about what can be done to solve the inflation crisis?
Ranking Member Smith, we absolutely talk about inflation along with economic growth, wage growth. We have to make sure that as we grow the economy, as you heard I talked about, we grew the economy the largest rate in 40 years. We also have to take into account with that came higher levels of inflation.
So it's very concerning. I'm glad that you have spoken to the president about inflation. What's concerning is this budget proposal projects starting today that inflation will be at 2% for the next 10 years. Because the first year you say 4.7%, but already for the year it's over 8%. So it would have to be 2% every month for the rest of the year to meet those averages, plus 2% for the next 9 years. Completely unrealistic when we're probably going to hit double digits inflation. So to hit the inflation projections in this budget, it's madness. What policies in this budget brings it down where inflation will be at 2%?
Mr. Smith, I'm happy to walk you through how we do calculations for the budget. These numbers were locked in early November. At the time, we were in line with blue chip private forecasters, but inflation is clearly at
So
a
5 months,
level.
Director, 5 months ago, you locked in these inflation numbers. So you did 4.7% 5 months ago, and 2 weeks ago it came out at 7.9%. You guys were off by almost double in that 5-month span. I just want to know, what policies do you all have in this proposal? Because spending $73 trillion just seems like it's only going to fuel the inflation fire. So I'd like to know how you're going to help the people of Southern Missouri to be able to afford food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars.
Yeah, I'm sure you have paid close attention to the president's plan on dealing with competition in the private sector and also improving supply chain challenges, which are global in nature. I'd also point out that inflation is a global trend. Almost every developed country is seeing inflationary growth. What that tells us is that we have a global issue. It's not one bill, one country's specific policies. This is something all major countries are facing coming out of the pandemic.
So I would be curious, does the president believe spending $73 trillion over the next 10 years will reduce inflation or increase inflation?
The president believes the fiscally responsible thing to do is to pay for our proposals. That is why you see this budget bring down deficits over the 10-year period by over $1 trillion.
Wow, Director. This proposal over the next 10 years actually increases the national debt by $16 trillion, which is going to have more than $1 trillion deficit every year for the next 10 years, which is the highest sustained amount of deficits in the history of our nation. And you're saying that this proposal is bringing down the deficits?
Ranking Member, I know we all know that deficits and debt are two different things. We bring down the deficit by $1 trillion. The debt rises, as many of you know, because of entitlements. What this president is not going to do is put forth proposals to cut benefits for our seniors in this country.
You know, I think that we all care about our seniors, Social Security and Medicare. That's why this proposal, Director, is very alarming to me, that by the year 2032, thanks to the $73 trillion worth of spending and the more than $1 trillion deficits every year by the proposal of this budget, that we are going to be at $45 trillion of our national debt. But just paying interest on that national debt is going to cost us $1.1 trillion just on interest, which means that will now be the third largest program that we have to pay for in our entire government, behind Medicare and Social Security. So this reckless spending is actually devastating our seniors, because now it's competing with them as being one of the most costly programs. Let's go on to the tax increases. Analysis of the tax increases in the president's budget shows they will lead to fewer jobs in the country and a reduction in wages. What is the president's rationale for imposing tax increases that will harm jobs, particularly when the country is trying to emerge from a pandemic?
I'd be interested in seeing your analysis. The president has been very clear He will not subscribe to trickle-down economics. He believes that we should invest in the middle class, those working to get to the middle class, and he has a policy, and this budget follows it, not to raise taxes over for anyone making less than $400,000.
In this proposal, you allow expiration of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, correct?
Yes.
And so by expiration of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, that is going to raise taxes on every average day American by $2,000 a year. And those are people making less than $100,000 a year. So in fact, this budget does that. It also increases taxes on gasoline and fossil fuels by $45 billion over the next 10 years. And like I said, the people of Southern Missouri, they're struggling to put gas in their car when gasoline has gone up 79% since Joe Biden took the oath of office here. And what is his solution in this budget? To only increase taxes more on their gasoline, driving up the $4.50 a gallon per gas to $5, $6. How do you respond to that?
Easily. I think it was a bipartisan interest here to ensure that we countered Russian aggression as strongly as possible. And the president reminded the American people with that would come possibly higher gas prices, and that has happened. He has been very clear with the American people that a strong response could possibly cause this to happen. Since Russian aggression, gas has gone up about $1. It is unfortunate that Russia has chosen to bring the global economy down this path, but it was appropriate for all developing countries to stand together and push back on this tyrant and his actions.
Director, I appreciate your comments, and you're doing a great job for the president, but let's get the facts out to the American people. On his first week in office, President Biden did executive orders to eliminate the Keystone XL pipeline that allowed us to purchase energy from our neighbors in Canada, also freezing new oil and drilling on federal lands. And let's put it this way. On April 24th, 2020, at a Casey's in Southeast Missouri, you could buy gasoline at 97 cents a gallon. That was under a Trump presidency. You can't find gas at 97 cents a gallon. In 2020, we were energy independent. We were exporting energy in this country. But under the direct policies of President Biden and the Democrat-controlled Congress, they reversed those policies to make us energy dependent on Russia, on Venezuela, on people who love to burn our flag. And it's so unfortunate this budget proposal only wants to tax the energy industry more to make it harder on everyday Americans. And the Americans are going to see it. I am interested. There was $1.9 billion that was in this most recent omnibus bill that's been carried over to finish the border wall. Is this administration going to finish the border wall?
Just so we're clear, the $1.9 billion wasn't rescinded. New money was not provided. The administration had a policy asking Congress to rescind that funding from 2021. Congress did not. But Congress did not provide additional money. And we are spending, as GAO has told this committee and others, that OMB, the president, the administration is acting within the bounds of the Empowerment and Control Act, and we are spending, obligating prudently.
So this administration just continues to withhold the $1.9 billion that was appropriated several Congresses ago that has stayed in the account.
Thankfully, GAO has agreed that we are obligating prudently under the law.
And what are you obligating it to? Because you're not doing any construction. So are you just paying people to hold the rusting materials?
No, we're actually doing environmental restoration, something that was woefully lacking. We're also doing community consultation. I think that's important to many of you who represent constituents.
I have 25 seconds, Director. I would like to know, how did this administration transfer almost $2 billion of COVID money to house illegals at the southern border when it was supposed to go towards replacing the national stockpile and for COVID tests?
It was supposed to go for COVID, and it went to COVID issues at the southern border. COVID for COVID.
So housing illegals was issues for COVID?
We had to test people immigrating into this country, and we also had to socially distance children who could not be close to each other due to COVID.
Would love that documentation, Director, along with
Here's a binder
answers.
we have provided to Congress full of COVID information.
and answers to our 40 letters that are hanging out there to the
including,
administration.
yeah, before Budget Day, asking what was in the budget. But thank you so much.
Thank you.